What is a pre-listing inspection? Do you need a pre-listing inspection? Let's talk about it. So before we talk about what a pre-inspection is, let's briefly go over what an inspection is. An inspection is something that the buyer pays for. Usually when you hear the word inspection, it's referring to the buyer's side of the transaction. And essentially what it is a tool for the buyer to assess whether they want to follow through with their purchase decision. Okay, but what is an inspection? What is it? An inspection is a visual assessment of a home's condition. And what I mean by visual assessment is that the inspector will look at parts of the home that are accessible. In other words, the inspector won't disassemble systems or components to get a better look, but they will still be comprehensive, meaning they'll do things like running the water and crawling under the house if it's safe and testing the electrical, basically interacting with the property. So what do home inspectors look at during an inspection? Well, they look at electrical. Is there any faulty wiring? Plumbing, is it outdated or leaking? HVAC, which stands for heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. Structural aspects. Foundation, is it cracked or sinking? Windows, are they sealed and is the casing fitted properly? Roof, how old is it? Does it leak? And things like siding, flooring, and the overall condition of the house. Now, as far as termites, an inspector can point to possible evidence that there might be termites, but that's usually done separately by a termite inspector. After the inspection, the inspector will write up an inspection report, which will give an overall assessment of the condition of the property and outline any major defects that need addressing. So, when is an inspection report needed? Well, in California, the default is the home inspection is done within 17 days of a buyer putting in an offer. But it's usually a lot sooner, like within 5 days of putting in an offer. The purpose of a home inspection is to help the buyer evaluate their offer and to renegotiate if any issues come up. An inspection is not required, but it is a good way for the buyer to exercise their due diligence. And unlike an appraisal, an inspection is not needed even if you're applying for a loan. And if the home inspection reveals anything that the buyer does not like, anything at all, the buyer can use the inspection contingency to back out of the deal. So again, the home inspection is a report that the buyer pays for after they put in an offer to help them complete their purchase decision. And it protects them against buying a potentially faulty product, in this case, a house. So then what is a pre-inspection? A pre-inspection is an inspection, except it's paid for by the seller before they list their house. A pre-inspection will help the seller identify potential issues that maybe they didn't know about. For example, maybe they're selling an older house that they've been in for a while, and they want to reveal potential issues before listing it on the market. This can help the seller to address possible repair work before listing, and it can help the seller more accurately price the house by taking into account any issues that come up. It can also minimize potential surprises down the road when the buyer's inspector finds problems that the seller didn't know about. Once a seller lists the house, they can use a pre-inspection report as a tool, not only for negotiating, but for marketing. It can show how the price of the house is justified by pairing it along with the inspection report. If your house is in tip-top condition, then the pre-inspection report will show that, and you can show it to buyers before they put in an offer. If there are issues with the property, those are going to be reflected in the pre-inspection, and again, it will show that you've accurately priced the house and taken those issues into account. So either way, the pre-inspection report will serve a purpose as far as how you will approach marketing the property. Okay, let's look at the pros and the cons. Let's start with the pros. It can reduce negotiation. Buyers can often use the findings of an inspection report as a bargaining tool to request a lower purchase price. Well, a pre-inspection report can put the leverage back into the seller's hands by preemptively addressing potential issues. A pre-inspection report shows transparency. By being transparent up front, shows buyers you have nothing to hide. This will also ultimately help buyers make a more informed decision before putting in an offer. No surprises. It can reduce surprises. If a buyer finds issues with their inspector during the inspection contingency, well, it could be a deal breaker. Addressing issues up front can reduce last-minute delays and reduce negotiating hiccups, and it can give sellers more control over negotiations. The more information a seller has about their house, the better, always. Peace of mind. When a seller has a pre-inspection done, it can reduce the stress of not knowing what issues could come up when the buyer brings over their own inspector. The seller will also have time to address any repair work that can come up. Let's look at the cons. The first one is full disclosure. This has to do with the fact that state law mandates the disclosure of any known issues pertaining to the property, which means the results of a pre-inspection report have to be shared with the buyers. And if you don't like what's on that report, well, too bad. Some sellers bank on the possibility that the buyer's inspector might overlook issues that could be found during a pre-inspection. The next one is seller's market. In a seller's market, some buyers are willing to waive the inspection contingency altogether in order to make their offer more appealing. In this scenario, it might not make sense to present more issues to the buyer than you have to. Another con is major issues. A pre-inspection might uncover major issues such as a sinking foundation or outdated plumbing or faulty electrical work, thus leading to buyer hesitation and an overall negative impact on the marketability of the house. So in summary, deciding whether you need a pre-inspection report before you list is up to you. And it depends on your property and your specific situation. In most cases, I think it's a great idea to get a pre-inspection, and a top-notch realtor will offer to get a pre-inspection as part of the commission package. Bottom line is, if your house does have some issues, they're gonna find those anyway, and it's better to present them up front. It will reduce the amount of negotiating headaches, and it will just make the process so much more easy, and it will actually help your buyer trust you more. And it will actually be greatly appreciated by the buyer so they can more accurately make decisions before putting in an offer. The last thing you want is to go down the line in an offer and then have it all fall apart because they found issues during an inspection. So personally, I offer this service to all of my clients because I think above all, transparency just makes things so much easier on all sides. And if your realtor doesn't offer this service, then ask them to reduce their commission. I mean, it's as simple as that. All right, that's it for this video. If you have any questions, please reach out and I'll see you in the next video.